The Design Review Board regular meeting for Tuesday, May 28, 2013 is now called to order. Kevin Gray,
Here.
Rick Schoenhardt is not here, Charlie Stevenson is not here, John Stewart,
Here.
Rita Bond, John Carroll, Tony Draplick. Hiram, did you hear? Anybody notify you? Okay. Chair would like to appoint Rita in the absence of, or in the Bill Gardner vacancy, and John Carroll in the Mark Nacarado vacancy.
I think Rick's.
Sorry? And Rick Schoenhardt is here. Since there's nobody here yet for the discussion of possible vote, why don't we start at the other end of the agenda? Approval of the minutes of May 14, 2013. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move it. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any comments, changes, deletions, additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous then. Approval. Hiram, do you have any correspondence?
I had a question, actually. I'd like to, I talked to the consultant that's working on the village district
Yeah.
matter. And as you know, we had our first meeting on that.
Mhm.
They've come back, they're just getting ready to come back, actually, with some of the results of that meeting and some suggested wording and things that they should consider as a part of that regulation. And I'd like to have another meeting on June 19th, which I think is a Thursday.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to let you know, that's what they're thinking of. Any objection to me telling them that that date's okay?
No, I mean,
I don't think there's any other meetings that evening, and what I would do would be...
want to have a special meeting for us then?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
a special meeting, or we could invite all the land use commissions and just, let everybody know that they're all invited at the same time, so I don't know how we want to do that. But clearly, I need the planning commission, zoning commission, and this board. The rest of them are certainly welcome to come, but those are the three essential boards for this particular project.
And what's the primary agenda on that return meeting?
I'll know better as soon as I receive
Okay.
their memo, what they have. They've got some
Okay.
conceptual ideas that they would like to float,
Mhm.
tell people what they found during the initial meeting, what their thinking is in terms of proposed uses that could be proposed in that area.
Mhm.
And I imagine a framework sort of for setting the regulation up, just to
Mhm.
get feedback on that.
Mhm.
Then after this meeting, they would go back and then sort of create that, and then be ready for a public presentation shortly thereafter.
Mhm.
I would imagine a week or two after that, they should be ready to go. But that's basically, I just found that out probably an hour ago, and so if that tends to work for people, everybody knows that that's a date.
No, they're going to have design ideas. They're not going to have the code at this point, right?
No.
They won't have the code on the next meeting after that, will they?
Yeah. that
Or they
looks
will?
like probably the final meeting. I think this is kind of setting the framework for what they
Okay.
found during the first meeting and
All right.
ideas that they had about trying to address some of those concerns.
Yeah.
So if that's okay, I'll tell them the 19th looks like a reasonable date.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
That's all I have.
Next item up, number 4, you had discussion of status of the Hartford land use study.
Yes, the next meeting of the subcommittee on that is tomorrow, actually, at 5 o'clock in this room.
Who's actually on that?
The chairman of all the boards and
Is it?
commissions. Plus, I think, or their designees. So I think in the case of finance, for example, I think the chairman designated someone to do that. I think Kevin North is on it for finance.
Mm-hmm.
Neil's on it, of course. Mark Deming designated Lou George to be on the committee. Rich Miller from Wetlands is on it. Rob Conway is on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Payne is on it as well. So those are the, and there's 2 selectmen as
Board
well.
of Selectmen,
Barry is on it,
right.
and Sean Metzger.
Okay.
At that meeting, what I believe, the packages from the consultants that we received were sent out or picked up by the committee members. I'm hopeful that the discussion will be fairly short to the point. My suggestion to the group is going to be select 3 consultants to interview for that. And then after that, probably the next day, ask one of the consultants to make a proposal, actually submit a proposal. Because I do believe and actually know for a fact it's a lot of work to get those together. I don't think it's fair to ask, for three of them to put the proposals together when in fact you have a leading candidate, and a second and a third. And so my sense would be that very shortly after those interviews, we have a proposal submitted from the town community, and then go forward from there. I have to tomorrow morning sometime actually put together an actual schedule of dates as to when the interviews would be, when the selection would be, when the proposals are due back, and we would start work on the actual process. So I don't have that formulated yet, but probably tomorrow morning I'll try to get that formulated. So that's what the idea is for the next meeting.
Okay, any questions? Looks like we have someone here. Let's see, are you item number 1, application number 1320 of Tunji Soma, agent for Simsbury Turnpike Realty LLC, owner for a site plan amendment for the addition of a pay station and rerouting of travel lanes on the property located at 39 Albany Turnpike, map A20, block 901, lot 001, zone B3. Welcome. Let me just as a note here from Hiram, this is staff memo about this, the car wash at 39 Albany Turnpike. The zoning commission voted to send this request to the DRB for discussion and recommendation. That's with regard to the 8 vacuum stations. Is that what they're asking for?
And the color of the canopy.
And another item for review and discussion is the building color as proposed by the applicant. This information was not available to the zoning commission. So I guess because they didn't get it, we're being asked to comment on it. So.
But the rest of it's already approved?
The lanes, there are 2 lanes,
Okay.
2 lanes, breaking it down to 2 lanes from 1 lane that comes off of 44.
Yeah, we still may want to make a comment on that. I mean, nothing, all right. So
Well,
just introduce yourself for the record if you have
Okay.
not. So.
My name's Tunji Soma, and I represent Connecticut Auto Spa, which will be the new company that will manage the old Valley Car Wash. And what we wanted to demonstrate today, or get approval for today, are the colors and the color scheme of the building overall. And trying to stay as neutral as possible, but the colors that we did use, the blues, are all come out of there's a piece of the equipment that's colored that way. So basically from the bottom, it's a darker gray. These look more taupe or brownish or tan, but they are in the gray family. So we'll have a darker gray on the bottom, and then 2 blue lines that will go around the entire perimeter, just about door height, top of door height. And then it'll be the existing gray siding, vinyl siding that's above that. Those are our logos, and those are the basic 5 colors that we'll use with all of our marketing material, all of our signage, and tried to stay as neutral as possible for the most part.
Is the signage part of this application right now? Or are you coming back again?
I guess we'll come back for the signage. These signs that are located on the building, I don't know if I didn't really prepare for anything for that except for the colors.
Mm-hmm.
The type of sign that it is, if we can get a backlit sign, we can have that conversation, I guess, at that, at a later date. But the primary thing was we just wanted to make sure that the colors of the overall building and project would meet the board's.
Okay. Now, is that piece of equipment in the upper right-hand corner, is that an exterior or interior?
This is the exterior, and these are vacuums, and the posts themselves are metal. They will be red. We tried to match the same Pantone color. with the rest of the sign. And in the top, we'll have a canopy, that'll be a blue, which also is trying to be as close to that Pantone color 287.
And how big is that canvas, the tarp, the cover there?
The actual distance from the post all the way over to the end of the arch is maybe 6 feet. So with a peak to it, it's 6 feet, and then relatively flat.
Does it cover I'm not sure, is it covering a whole length of a car?
No, it wouldn't cover it, just really just the maybe half of the car.
Okay, and then how many of them is there? So it's 6 feet by what? There's
On
8 of them, so is it 48?
On the planning and zoning that was approved, I think last year, we counted them as individual, like parking lanes, or parking spots. There were 10, we were only gonna use 8.
So that'd be a continuous canvas top on
Right, yeah,
8,
this is just a
covering
little,
8.
little
Yeah.
section of it.
Okay.
Basically, all it's gonna do is just hide a PVC pipe behind it that goes to one central vacuum system. So you can have, 8 different terminals, all off of the same one vacuum.
Can I ask a question? I'm gonna direct it at you, Hiram. Since this is the first time we've seen this, planning and zoning has approved the circulation of this, is that correct?
Correct.
And you have asked us to make, or they have asked us to make comments about that. Is it germane to make a comment, to ask a question about the circulation?
Sure, I'm sure that you can ask.
Yeah.
Sure.
Could you, I've been looking at this plan, and it just, could you explain to me, when somebody enters the site from Albany Avenue, they would take a left turn, correct?
When they're entering from Albany Avenue, they'll come
Take a
in
right
and
turn.
make a
They make,
right.
they make a, I'm
Once
sorry,
they're
they'll
on
make-
the site?
They'll make a
Yeah.
right, yeah, okay, they make a right turn, and then to get in to wash the car, they've got to go all the way around past where you just discussed where the vacuums are, correct?
You'll be passing them on your right.
That's
That'll be
correct,
on
you
your
pass
right.
them on your right, and then you would enter into this area where I presume the 2 arrows indicate that you pay or something, and then from there you would proceed on, and then you would hook around to your left, and then go into the building for the car wash.
Correct, the long tunnel, the
Right.
100-foot tunnel.
And then when you exit there, you cannot go to Albany Avenue, then you've got to go and you've got to do the loop again, is that correct?
Well,
Yeah.
no, when you exit, you'll be able to go straight out.
That's not what this shows. This shows that there's an island directly in front of you, and you would be forced to bear to your
It's different
left.
from the
Where
one
are
we-
you
And
seeing it
I
on?
think that's a.
Is that an island?
There might be an older version. I see 2 different
or it
versions
could be
here.
a newer version.
Oh, that is.
Yeah, this is,
This is the new one here.
the landowner, Brian Nisula, wants to put in this road,
Right.
but it hasn't been approved yet, and we're not gonna, I'm not seeking any approval for that.
Okay, so
So this road is.
Is not there.
Is not there,
So therefore, this is not there.
and that is not there, correct.
Right, so in other words, the object is if somebody comes around, they go through here, they would come straight out here.
Correct.
Just the way they do now.
And we're gonna use this far lane outside, it's an uncovered lane,
Mhm.
as an exit until the road comes in.
Okay.
That's the way it exists now, though.
Right.
Right,
That's
so you're not
exactly-
gonna change what's there now.
No.
However,
The only thing that we wanted to add were the 3 islands.
Right.
That kidney shape or comma-shaped island and those 2.
now, let's take it another step. Let's say this road is built.
Mhm.
Then if that road is built, would this island be constructed?
It would.
Okay.
And then there would be an exit down here.
So that would force the person to go around through here, then they would have to exit out here?
Correct.
Okay, so that, and Mike, and these 3 parking spaces are,
For people that want to drive up and drop off their car for a wash and a vacuum, kind of a VIP
okay.
service.
So the probability is that the person driving a car and putting it into one of those 3 spaces it's going to be the responsibility of your employees to maneuver those cars through this space, not them.
Correct.
Because my concern is that somebody's gonna back out into these people turning in if this island is here. But worse, my concern would be, and I would offer this only as a future concern, is I'd be concerned that somebody would try and do that. They would ignore this and they're gonna try to do that, and that could be a real problem.
Well, when that island is put in, this long island is put in,
Mhm.
we'll have signage, for exit only,
Mhm.
left turn only.
Okay.
And we will also have employees on site to make sure that traffic is kind of
Okay.
flowing. We may even put some markings on the tar, on the asphalt too.
Yeah, I would think, and again.
To make it as, no confusion at all.
Okay, I mean, I understand that we're kind of coming behind this, and that's why I asked Hiram if it was acceptable for us to bring this up at this
Yeah,
point.
no,
Because I look at this and I go like,
I do-
boy,
I
that
do-
doesn't quite work the way you would want it to work.
Right. I know that Brian is anxious to put in the road, and he may be presenting or be on the agenda
I see.
in the near term, but
I see.
right now it is not been
Okay,
approved.
so assuming the road isn't built right now, what you're looking for is just the status quo in terms of egress and.
Correct,
I
correct.
understand.
Same circulation that's really currently there now, John. That whole second phase is obviously fairly extensive with a driveway
Right.
that connects behind it, so none of that's been submitted.
And
Yeah.
not to make any assumptions, but because of the fact that this is a signaled intersection and what's happening across the street, is there any traffic control issues or relative to that in terms of the movement of traffic through that signalized
I
intersection?
would certainly bring those up with the engineer when that comes in. I know that my workman is working on that. I think,
Okay.
Daily from my work group working on that.
Right.
It's probably, in addition to the construction behind
Right.
that connects the rest of the properties, that's one of the issues.
Right, because I know from working with Steve Kushner, I know Steve is always, and this is in Avon, granted, this is in Simsbury,
Mhm.
but Steve has always been looking to loop as many as possible of the facilities along Albany so that they aren't rotating through Albany, that they're maneuvering behind Albany and connecting. So I think the inclusion of the road makes a lot of sense. The only issue is what's the signalization?
They might even eliminate some of these driveways to help,
That probably would be a smart idea.
would help out with all of, entering into the bank,
Mhm.
the Dunkin' Donuts and the Subway.
Yeah, I would support that, yeah, I would.
How much of that road already exists?
I believe that it only goes up to,
Yeah, I don't think this piece.
None of
here
it's
is-
in the
Yeah.
back.
it goes, it's kind of dead ends into a,
Right.
I
It
think
goes as
behind
far
Dun-
as the liquor store?
No, I think
No.
Dunkin' Donuts is if you're proceeding
right.
westbound,
Right.
you're forced, well,
None of
for
this
lack of a
is
better
there.
word, to turn
Okay,
into
all right.
where Dunkin'
So
Donuts
this
is.
is-
So that means this does not exist.
If you pull up into the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, I think that's where.
That's
so you
right.
Go off from
That's
there.
right.
Oh, okay, so, yeah.
Okay.
From there.
I have one question actually about the layout, and that is, so I see these parking spaces on the left, and assuming that's for the vacuum.
and those are for the vacuums, yes.
Right, now,
this
do
is
they
one
have
owner?
to back out of that space?
Apparently.
After they finish vacuuming? Because that is gonna be a problem, because
Yeah.
I've used that former one, and I can't, sometimes it really backs up there.
We got, we put extra space in there, and I think this is an older version. Let me get the- This has about 22 feet in between there, and part of what we were really working to do was.
Can you
Oh.
put it over there
Yeah,
just
so
so
the
we
camera
can,
can
so
see
the
it.
camera can
The
see it?
camera,
Oh, so
over
there
over
is a
the,
separate lane for them to back up into, is that what I'm seeing?
There is, yeah, 22 feet is between this lane
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
back
so you
of
made
that.
enough space for them to
So,
back up?
yeah, that was one thing that we wanted to make sure that it was easy for people to easily back out.
but you would be backing into that traffic that was going out to the new drive.
Right.
Right.
Well, now, this just is a minor point, but Hiram, it's 22 feet instead of 24. Is that acceptable to the town?
Yeah, on a private drive, I think that's okay. 24 would be like a public road.
And those, I don't have my glasses on, but those appear to be a 60-degree parking aisle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so you
Yeah.
can reduce it because of that. Thank you.
Is there,
Thank you.
if the long-term proposal for that drive is not configured that way,
Mhm.
is that going to change anything? that you're doing now? In other words, are you going to start this construction before you get approval on that other road?
The last P and Z meeting, they approved this island, that island, and that island. We'll keep this outside lit bay as just as a means of egress. Until the road goes in, then we would actually cover that and turn it into a detail bay, a detail garage.
Yeah, okay, that wasn't exactly my question, but, all right.
Well, maybe I didn't understand.
Okay, why don't you get into the colors then, and I think we want to make a general comment toward the end about the traffic.
So this is basically assuming the road is done, and that we've covered the third, what is now means of egress, just that uncovered wash bay. And so the entire building will just have the darker gray with the lower, below the windows, or doors and down, and then the two stripes, and then that's it.
Okay, why don't we, we'll comment, we're assuming then the graphics comes back later then, and any exterior lighting that you're proposing?
No, not at this time.
Okay, not as part of this application. So that maybe if you have that, it's with the signage
Well,
package.
when we,
Well, except they'll need to put the wiring.
I guess we would have a meeting for the signage. We'd like to also update the street sign from the rolling barrel that's there.
Okay.
But we hadn't prepared for anything for that.
I'd like to move this along and.
Yes, what we're talking about specifically is the color of the building
Right,
Yep,
and the two blue bands.
right,
correct.
yeah.
And the color of the
Oh, that's
the
right.
part for the vacuums.
Anybody have any concerns about that? Rick?
No.
No.
it's fine.
No.
Kevin? Nope. John? No? Okay, that's what we're asked to do by the zoning commission. We'll make a comment maybe as a design consideration about the circulation, or would you like to include that in the?
Well, I
We'll
think
include
it's-
it in there. I think the consensus is at this point, we'll make a motion on this, but that the issues surrounding the color, the choice of materials and so forth would be approved, or our recommendation would be approval by the zoning commission. The issue about the circulation, I think, from my perspective, I think is just fraught with a lot of problems that have not been fully resolved, that raise safety issues. You have cross-traffic issues, somebody coming in, somebody leaving once that new driveway is put in. You've got cars crossing each other. And as was brought out before, you've got quite narrow lanes, and you have parking backing out into traffic lanes on that. I think that hasn't been fully developed from my perspective as a viable plan. I'm not going to propose any type of solution to that, nor should we, I guess, at this stage, but
I think expressing concern that
I think
we see in the site plan.
our issue is that,
conflicts.
our issue will be that when that does eventually come down, that there are going to be issues, I think, that should be raised with regard to safety on that new layout, and that's a big concern of this commission. And when you ultimately get down to it, as you mentioned, there has to be directional signs. Where there's so much going on in the back there, they're going to have so many directional signs, it's going to be confusing, probably. That it looks like there's one owner for that whole property. I don't know if there was ever any thought about coming up with a master plan for that entire site to kind of,
I think that
remedy
may,
that-
that may be a version of the master plan.
that is the master plan.
I don't know how accurate, I know there's been some changes in the width of the roads that he's proposed.
Okay. John, do you want to make a motion? We're going to move this along, but what I'd like to do is make that
Comment, if I may.
comment. John?
You might want to consider making that vacuum system a drive-through system, rather than back out.
Okay, good enough.
If I look at this.
Comment
this
on the
drawing, which
parking.
is very hard to interpret,
Comment on the circulation, the
It looks
concerns.
to me like it's possible, with maybe a small modification to that island that's down here. What is this line between the two islands?
That's just painted on the, to help distinguish the
Yeah,
layout.
is that all blacktop?
It is,
All the white is blacktop?
correct.
Well, my question here is why not make that drive-through vacuum so that it joins traffic on the right instead of backing out? That's my question, or my suggestion to consider.
So if you pulled into.
No.
No, pull in from the other
You pull
side.
in here, you vacuum, you go right straight through and come out here. You don't back out, you come right through. I mean, I'm looking at your rendering of the vacuum system.
Mhm.
It seems to me it can be a drive-through.
Oh, okay, so you're,
Yeah, in other words, you pull in, you vacuum, and you come out here.
mhm.
You don't back out here.
Mhm.
And especially, John, if you look at the.
No, you don't, John, the
but
vacuums are
southernmost
not,
one, when
the
that
vacuums are
person
on the
backs out,
left.
he's gonna back directly into, those
Somebody
two
turn-
cars could be backing out directly into somebody approaching to pay for it. So that's just one of the conflicts, and again, we don't need to.
No.
But I think for your information, in moving forward, what John brought forward, and as we remarked about the conflicts, that's a prime conflict right there.
Well, that person would actually have to go all the way around again to get in the
Right.
queue.
But he's not gonna do that. He's
Right.
gonna back out, and he's gonna continue backing up till he gets himself aligned that he can pull through, human nature being what it is. Right? That guy's gonna back up, that's what he's gonna try to do, and then there's gonna be conflict, but again, we have a lot
And
to
I
talk
think
about.
also
We
the
do.
nearest to the road too.
I'd like
to
to,
44.
I'd like to move this along. The site issue, I think, will be back, maybe not. Maybe the zoning commission will just decide on it, but John, would you make the motion?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman, I move that we indicate to the zoning commission that the fact that the design review board finds that the proposal in its current form to be generally consistent with its guidelines for the community design and recommend its approval in its current form. This is specific to the colors that were presented by the agent, Mr. Soma, for the application of 1320, agent for Simsbury Turnpike Realty LLC owner for the site plan amendment for the addition of pay stations and rerouting of travel lanes on the property located at 39 Albany Turnpike. Specifically, again, that this is for the color of the building and also the color of the two blue bands and the color for the apparatus for the vacuums. As an agenda, as an amendment to that, we would like to say that we express concern on the ongoing site development relative to the circulation, the vehicular circulation. We also understand that will be at another time reviewed as the project is under development. Do you feel that covers what?
Right. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rick. Any other comments? All in favor, acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Just as a design consideration, we have a lot of questions and concerns about the future proposal for the circulation system within that property and would highly recommend more of a master plan that really resolves a lot of issues that seem to be potential conflicts at this stage in terms of backing into traffic and primarily at the various routes, the numbers of directional signs behind the three buildings, not only this one, but the two adjacent structures. And also that it might even be used as a shortcut around that traffic light on Route 167. I mean, there could be a lot of issues around that signalized intersection that could be, should all be considered, and the design review board doesn't feel that's fully resolved at this point and hopes that it comes back again with for more studied meeting. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 2 has been pulled from the agenda. Item number 3, Julie Burke is not here, I guess, at this stage.
Just let me know, the second item was continued, to be continued to June 11th next week. It wasn't actually withdrawn, it was just continued to the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, we never opened it, though. Okay. All right, next item then is number 4, the application number 13-25 of John D. Ritson, agent for RC Connectors LLC, owner for site plan amendment for modifications to the landscaping plan and property located at 144, 146 Hot Meadow Street, map F17, block 154, lot 008, zone I-1. Welcome.
Welcome. Good evening, everybody. I thought I was going to miss this, and then I thought I was late. So,
Let me just say, before you get going, we got a really full agenda
Okay.
on some items, and
I'll make this very, very
so
quick.
brevity is the key here.
Brevity is going to be great. What this is all about is, we did a new landscape plan with the condo association, finally took, Talcott Acres finally took a look at what I was doing with my plan that had already been approved. They had an issue with the placement of 5 trees, and all I've done basically, well, they had 2 issues. They wanted 5 trees moved, so there's like double plantings in here, which gives them better shading or screening wherever they wanted. And they also wanted a lot of understory, so we've got 4 sections of understory bushes that go up like 10 feet all in front, where they wanted additional screening. So this is just to appease them. We went, I had Biff Scheckinger redo the whole plan. They have not officially told me what they like or don't like, but I've heard from Howard Beach, they thought it was fabulous. We had a meeting with them, this is what they wanted, this is all that is involved here. Everything else is exactly the same that was here before, except, I know Rick was very critical of the original species that was picked by the landscape architect. We revamped everything with Marjorie Winter, and they're all indigenous and good stuff. So that's really all it's about, folks.
So Hiram Conservation has reviewed this
Yes, they
plan?
have the, May,
Accept.
I think I put in the memo,
Yeah,
May 21st, they did take a look at it.
okay.
Recommend approval.
Just in another area, it's not part of this, I'm just curious, has all the planting been done in the other parts of the?
No, none of
Okay.
it's been done.
None of it's been?
Zero,
Okay, good. All right,
0.
yeah, okay.
We're hoping the second week of June, right before we go and ask Henry to allow us to start letting people in.
Okay,
And the rain gardens are being put in right now, but, I mean, there's the stone and the digging out of the trenches, but other than that, nothing's been planted.
I saw that, I did the drive-by from the Dunkin' Donuts side there, and,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great.
Not the best of time to be planting.
It's the worst time in the world. I met with an irrigation guy today, which was not in the budget, and we're probably gonna have to put irrigation in, and it, you know, the condo people, I just wanted to get this done and get it approved, so when my landscape guy can put it in, I'd love to wait until the fall, but it's too hard to go there. We're just gonna plant it, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna have hired people to water, and it's gonna be the worst time to plant. There's no doubt about it. Hoping for a wet summer.
Hiram, have you heard from any of the condo folks?
No, I
Mhm.
called, I tried to call them today, Howard was out this afternoon, I couldn't talk to him,
Okay.
and I didn't get any information on that.
Okay.
So I would say that certainly before it goes back to the zoning for their approval, we should hear something from them.
So you're waiting for the confirmation then
Correct.
from the, okay, great.
It's kind of hard to get that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the communication
Yeah.
with them, but I will talk to the president. I'm sure that there will be people here, even though it won't be a public hearing next when I go to zoning.
Hmm.
But there will be condo people here.
Mhm.
They can, I'm sure, if they want to take public comment, they can.
Okay. All right, does everybody feel comfortable making a motion on this?
The landscape people can see the plantings from here.
I saw it, no, he printed it out, fortunately.
Mr. Chairman, I'll do this one too. I move, we, the Design Review Board, move that we indicate to the zoning commission that the fact that the Design Review Board finds this proposal in its current form to be generally consistent with the guidelines for community design and recommend its approval in its current form. Drawing as, oh, Jesus, what is the drawing? Oh, here it is. Bear with me here. Let me see. Oh, it's been clipped off, that's not helpful. Okay. Unfortunately, the way it was printed does not give us any information about who, what, where, why, or when.
Let me look in here, John.
All right, could you just add that to?
You want the dates, John?
Yeah, I mean, you can see, Hiram, that there's, I don't know who did it, when it did it, what the dates are. All I know, it's a 20-scale drawing.
He also didn't put the revision date down.
Well, that's not even the current site plan, right? Because you don't have the garages on there.
This is just the original landscape plan without the garages.
Yeah,
That-
right.
That's the site plan.
With the garages.
Do we have a current site plan that we can speak to?
Yes,
Yeah,
this
revised.
is site plan.
6 of 7? Is that the one you have?
6 or 7, the date on that is maybe.
It's, yeah, 26 October 2009, and it's a
The revised
revision,
date.
revised in May 2013.
Okay.
Okay.
May 8th. 8th of May?
8 May 2013.
I think the Europeans would know that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John Carroll. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So it's unanimous.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Thank you.
I do.
Moving on to item number 5, then, you haven't heard from item number 3, have you, Hiram? Julie Burke? Is she coming, or?
No,
Okay.
when you get to it at the end, I'm happy to talk about that.
All right. Okay, item number 5 is the application number 13-25 of Matt Whitmer of Phase Zero Design, agent for GC Simsbury, LLC owner, for a site plan amendment on the property located at 920 Hop Meadow Street, map H09, block 227, lot 001, zone SC1. Welcome back.
Thank you for having us back, appreciate it. We'll make this quick, we made some modifications to the plans that you've seen, taking to heart, certainly some of the comments that you've given us. We also did receive some feedback from the group through Highland today. Thoughts today is to kind of show you where we are, talk a little bit about some of the changes, and hopefully be able to move forward with these designs. This is the concept we had talked about before, the front of Metro B's, as well as the subways. I know there were some comments about this, kind of what happened was we left that last bay at Subway almost as a remnant, as there's nothing left in the architecture of the buildings. We removed everything. So we've looked at actually working with Subway, came up with some concepts. One of the major issues with Subway right now is it's not accessible, so we wanted to try to work with Subway to correct that. A second issue is they have this kind of outdoor open area in the back where I think there's a deuce table right now, and what typically happens is people smoke there, they toss their cigarettes over the side into the courtyard below. So the best idea really, and what I think strengthens the building, is to actually infill those areas and create a new front entry at Subways. To kind of balance what we had done at Metro B's. And this plan that you've received shows how we're looking at working with the front elements now, as well as infilling, putting a bay in, and then on the side, putting in 2 bays, rather 2 large windows, which are exactly the same dimension and design as what we have in the complex already, over Orlando Flowers. So I'm not sure there's any questions about this this concept and where we are.
Yeah, I guess we can do one building at a time here. You got an awning above the Metro B's entrance, nothing above the entrance to the subway.
Right. And, the thought there is we're really trying to bring attention to Metro B's. This is really a project for Metro B's to really support them. Some of the work that's occurring at Subway now is somewhat of a function of that. But we'd really like to keep Metro B's as the focal point. They're a very important tenant. Subway, it's a well-known entity, it's a chain, people know of it. We'd really like to create some differentiation between the entries. That's really the thought of not putting the awning over Subway.
Well, 2 things kind of jump out at me. One is the fenestration pattern, and the choice to have the large picture windows and kind of the oversized skylights with the horizontal Muntin bar on that, as a change from kind of the standard what's there now in a lot of the other buildings. And the other thing is having a lot of the traffic now go right out into the driveway, right, the front door to the restaurant drops right down to a very active driveway where people pulling into Starbucks and the parking area for the Metro Bs off to the north. Is that's a concern of yours or not?
Well, I mean, it is, but to be honest with you, we're still maintaining this entrance with a side parking lot. And in the plan, we are bringing a sidewalk across the front for subways here. So the reality is.
Well, if I park to the left there in the north parking lot, how would I get in?
Come up through the stairs here and around, it's really the thought.
That's been eliminated.
Oh, we're taking this coming in here, you are coming in here?
So you have to walk down into the driveway to get in. That's the main entrance.
Yeah, we may have to, put some sidewalk there or something like that, just to protect. I mean, we did recess the stairs, certainly.
Well, you may not have a space for a sidewalk. It's pretty narrow backing up from that's row and Starbucks, backing into that area.
And it's also complicated, Matt, because you get a lot of people, and I guarantee what's gonna happen now is you get people who go into Subway and they parallel park there. They'll pull in and they'll stop and they'll send their child or somebody and which means now you've got the worst situation because now the car there can't pull out and now you got somebody walking around into this mix of vehicular. So I think, right church, wrong pew, and the idea that you don't have a lot of choices, and I understand that. What are you gonna do? But I think a little bit more attention needs to be paid to how that pedestrian circulation, since the other alternative is not available to them now, works smoothly. And maybe there's the possibility of maybe even doing something a little bit more. I mean, I think it's gracious, the area that is in front of both Metro B and Subway, but perhaps by moving that back and doing something where there's more of a refuge area in front that allows people to be able to move back and forth across that, and also act as a receptive area. And while I'm speaking, I would like to take up something that Emil brought. I agree with you. I think the idea of differentiating Subway and Metro B makes sense. Did you perhaps think about maybe because of the general roof line and that kind of facade that it is, but maybe putting some type of a portico or something that comes out that may be able to do something with that roof line? I like what was done, and I think most people are very appreciative of what was done with Starbucks and the way it has that movement of fenestration. This is this big blank wall, and I know as an architect it's challenging to do something like that there, but maybe that all could be rolled in together to think about how that entryway, both along pedestrian going up to the plaza and in and separating the two, might be considered.
Yeah, I mean, John, you're right. I mean, we did look at a portico for this, and
Yeah.
Part of our concern is if you didn't do it across the entire facade, at this end, it didn't seem like it was doing what it needed to do. And combining Subway with Metro B under a portico.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, because it then
No,
just.
no, I wouldn't do that. I would give let's face it, Metro B is its own unique place and it's well understood and people come there for that. I did not mean to imply a portico all the way across. I meant more focused specifically for Metro B, because I agree with you. Subway is a known commodity. It doesn't make any difference where you are, Subway is Subway. But I think to further differentiate that, although they may be sharing the same facade, but they're not sharing the same entrance. Even to the point, and I'm sure you probably thought about it, is taking Subway's door and moving it farther away from Metro B's door.
Or back on the same side that it is on now, so that it actually comes off the little plaza there? So that actually doesn't even compete with the Metro B door.
Yeah, we have some grade issues to get it up to the, to get it accessible.
Yeah.
Because that Subway is actually 6 inches, about 7 inches higher than the sidewalk in that area. So we kind of brought the door as far as we could away without encroaching too much to try to find a happy medium. between Subway and Metro B's.
What about putting if you left the door there, you could put a ramp there. I mean, I know it's not the best of solutions, but you know, then you could resolve a foot within 12 feet 6 inches. Again, just a thought. But I think, you know, Metro B's a great place. I mean, I think we all agree with that. You know, if you could kind of move those apart, maybe it might make your life a little bit easier. I don't know, it's just a thought.
Well, the other thing is you're really not designing for one store. I mean, Subway today could be something else down the road. So, you know, equally of importance to the restaurants. So I think you want to treat this as not on who the tenant is today, but any eventuality, I would say. But
It's
But
a
anyway.
tough one, so, you know, kudos to you for trying to resolve it. There's a lot of things going on there that make your life complicated.
What is the purpose of the lower left-hand here? The whole business on the side, the railings and all of that, where the existing door is,
Yes.
yeah, from the facade of the building to the left, what, if we're not gonna use the stairs that are there, is that, what is it there for?
Well, that's actually part of the, you know, they are planning on keeping this door at this location and probably using it as a service door to service these, some tables here. There's even a talk of maybe doing a drink rail or something with a couple of stools on that side. But doing something so that there's an ease of service without going in and out of this door and maintaining that. You know, I do think certainly the railing does help to wrap the side of this building and give the building a little more presence too, which, you know, it does lack. You certainly have to maybe we don't have anything that's doing that. Maybe even a lamp post or something at the corner could be quite nice.
So is that building into the existing drive?
No, that's existing right now.
That even where the tables are?
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually
There's a walk there.
There's about 15 feet from the front edge of the building to the curb, yeah.
There's a walk that goes up there now.
Yeah.
Then there's a, kind of drops off.
there's a landscaping area in front of it.
Yeah, I think it's 5 feet of landing in front of the building, a 5-foot sidewalk, and then another 5 feet.
So they're going into the planting area. So you're not reducing any of that driveway at all.
Yeah.
Well,
And the reason I asked the question is, we're talking about the Metro Base facade being dominant, if you will, in this, and rightly so. Is that space potential use as part of the facade?
this area out here.
Yeah.
well,
Let's take a look at the facade here. real quick. So here, this,
Well, what I'm saying here is this, is here we have, what do we have here, like 8 feet?
no, it's about 4 feet maybe?
It's
This whole
4 to
business-
5 feet.
This whole business, from the facade back, is useless, basically, except for you know, weight traffic, if you will, as you say. What I'm saying is, if this becomes part of the facade at the facade face, it further emphasizes the Metro Base
I don't,
dominance.
John, I'm not sure how much we want to get into solving the problem. I think what we want to do is kind of point out some of the issues that, what we have to look at is what we're asked to evaluate, and, because there are any number of solutions there. But, Rick, do you want to have any comments?
No, I really, I really don't have any answers to the problems that have been raised.
No.
so I'll leave it to those guys to work out. I think the issue of the steps coming out of the driveway, that's a serious one. And perhaps you can do something in terms of having the steps come down at a right angle to that, so there's a landing there's a sidewalk area there, separate from the pavement. I think it is a good idea if the subway door can be moved to the right. I don't know whether the plan allows for much of that, but the further you can go, the better, and if ramping solves that problem, that would be a good thing to do.
And once you're inside the Metro B's cage, can you get out from the outside?
I'm sorry, the cage, I like that. No, you really, your access would be out the front steps here. You know, as.
Yeah, so you have to go back indoors? Can-
No, no, no. This,
We would have a gate in the.
All right, there is a gate to it, okay.
Yeah, going back to the facade and the subway door, I don't know whether you could do something that would strengthen the that area by taking that picture window that you have and the doorway and linking them together, drawing them together and making something more of that. That instead of kind of two openings punched into that wall, make it one opening.
one thing, if I may, I know we're thinking of maybe phasing this, and I know, we wanted to come back with some options of looking at that bay at Subway. I believe from our discussions, Metro B's probably wants to happen sooner than Subway. So maybe we look at resolving some of the issues with the access into to Metro B's from the sidewalk. But look at coming back
Yeah.
at a later date with some more options for Subway.
Yeah, I would be better about that when you fully develop the idea a little bit more, because I think frankly, I think that's a fatal flaw with the layout. And because it's, in our guidelines, we try to separate vehicular and pedestrian traffic to the extent you can reasonably. And I think there is a solution here, but it's not fully developed yet. So I, for one, would like to see more work on this. Why don't you go into some of your other buildings, and then we'll, at this location, and then.
So, I think you folks have seen what we've been proposing for the area between Sarah Barnes and Workshop. And I think other than some minor adjustments, we haven't really made any changes to this. I think it was pretty much appreciated when we presented it before. And I think we'd like to.
Well, I think we did have comments. I think the Muntin bar pattern, there were comments about that, and I think I asked you, I think I may have been the one, but getting a vertical Muntin bar and those side lights next to the picture windows.
In these here?
Well, at a minimum, because you've really gone away from the whole original barn-like. These were sort of barn-like structures, and although I like the idea of mixing contemporary with traditional, this looks like kind of a 50s, with all respect, kind of a 50s look.
Well, I think we had talked before, though, that we are replicating the windows that are part of the design that's there now. So that it wouldn't break things up too much. I mean, the building itself is a number of different shapes and elevations and ends and entries.
Well, there you're pulling off the bay windows is what you're doing. And you didn't want to replace them with a box bay or something?
Try to use what's there and work with that is what we were more looking to do. This is actually a bay that's over on Horns right now, bay type.
Right.
It's out there right now, so we talked last time about replicating that to kind of pull that part of the building together. And I think we even have looked at using that on the subway piece that we submitted on.
You're flush with the face of the building. You're not building a bay on that. No, I just look at the horns. I think that's
Horns here.
Oh, that's horns. Yeah.
You can see a little bit of it in the picture.
I thought you were on the barn building over here. This is the
That's
building.
this.
The top right picture.
Right.
That's Horns, right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the one we're looking at on the right.
I remember last time you discussed adding that vertical mullion on it, and I just, you know, and compared to the facade that's adjacent to Sarah Barnes, we were trying to keep it very similar. However, we did introduce some paneling below the windows, again, because we were thinking that this center piece of Sarah Barnes is kind of the focal point of the whole Simsbury shop, so we're adding a little more detail. However, we just, I don't know, we tried looking at it with the vertical bars in it, and it just wasn't really working for us.
Well, I know Mr. Walker introduced that a long time ago, and I guess in the Haran complex, and there was some discussion at the time when that happened, and I think the thought was that, well, it's a variation, but I don't think there was any anticipation that's going to be thematic throughout the whole complex, frankly, and I think you're way away from, to me anyway, it's kind of a disconnect between the fenestration and the style of the building, the barn-like structure, from a traditional standpoint, but did he?
Well, I mean, then I apologize, because I
So-
didn't want to, misinterpret what was being told to us. I mean, I think certainly we can look at adding that in. I mean, I think it, you're right, it is going to break up that, those ends and do a little more of what we're doing in the doors as far as.
Yeah, and you've got the Sarah Bar, the workshop area that has all those divided lights in it too. It'll relate better to that.
Yeah.
Certainly that's reasonable, I apologize. Anything else on that?
I don't think so. Any other
But
comments?
the workshop's going to this window too, right? Yeah,
This is,
These windows on the workshop are being replaced as
yeah,
well.
by the same
Oh,
style.
Oh, that's,
Similar
Yeah.
yeah.
You- You're basically taking a building with character and turned it into a strip
Yeah.
shopping center.
right, right.
Okay. We'll certainly do that then. I think that makes sense.
You want to rework that or something and then come back again? So
If that's
we'll not,
necessary, I mean, I think if it is the mullion, I mean, we can add that in if we want to, then make that a condition of approval, or?
well, it looks like you have two applications here. Let's make a motion on the last one before we get into this application. But the thought then is that you wanted to, you agreed to rework the entrance into the Metro East subway combination there to look at mitigating some of that potential safety issue with pedestrian vehicular traffic hazard. And, you've heard some comments now about the fenestration, about the level of detail rather than large picture windows. As was mentioned, it's kind of a strip mall development scenario to get some more detail in there. I mean, you had transom windows above the Metro Beast and nothing above the subway entrance. So there's no, I mean, it's okay to be different, but they're completely different in terms of character, in terms of approach. And it might be good if one of those at least ties in with the rest of the complex. And I think what we're saying is not to swap out all the small, light Muntin pattern windows for this more I would call it 60s, 50s, 60s style window. But I mean, those could be box bays too on that particular one with a shed roof on it would be fine. But you just want to go flat on the surface with the windows. So if you're willing to come back, we'll not take a motion on this if you want to come back. If you don't want to come back, we'll take a motion on it with reworking that.
How does this work? Do you take a motion with,
Well, we'll take a vote, which, if people are sufficiently concerned about the solutions, for example, in terms of traffic, we'll take a motion on that, on the whole project. And, it'll be to send to the zoning commission a positive or a negative motion. So it's up to you. If you're willing to kind of address some of the issues that we think have not been fully resolved yet, and then come back again, then we'll not take any action on this at this point, and we'll continue it at another meeting, you know, at your choice.
No, I didn't know if they were, if, you know, with the vote, if it was pending, you know, the comments that you've given us. But I'll probably talk to my client and see if we want to go that way. If we can.
All right, if you're just going to leave without that decision, then we'll take a motion on it. Because you might want to just go to zoning. They ultimately have the say anyway. You might want to take it to them, and they'll decide ultimately. But we ought to register our comments on this. So, Kevin, you want to make a motion?
Well, I would have to make a motion against it.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, regarding the application of, which one is it? 1329 Matt Whitmer, a Phase 0 design agent for GC Simsbury LLC, owner for site plan amendment for the property located at 920 Hot Meadow Street. That I move that we indicate to the zoning commission that the design review board finds this proposal in its current form to be generally inconsistent with the guidelines for community design. They recommend this proposal be denied in its current form and resubmitted to be more in keeping with the guidelines, with specific attention to the traffic flow between pedestrians and vehicles, the penetration on the Metro Beast property, and the windows, I don't know how you distinguish that. And the windows. I'm not gonna leave it, I'm gonna leave it there.
The
And even,
remaining,
and the access to Subway.
and the access to Subway. Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second? Second by John Stewart. Any comments? So we have we're going to send a recommendation of denial. All those in favor of the motion, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll move on to the next one then. So,
If I may, just a question though. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, you've given a negative recommendation. Is the motion read that if those items are in fact resolved, the project would have been favorably received? How does that?
Yeah,
Sure.
we're recommending that you,
yeah, this wasn't,
Basically address those three items.
right. These were items that came up actually at the previous meeting that we had concerning the fenestration detailing. And the circulation was brand new, so in effect, we're seeing that for the first time. Had we been given an informal, we would have been able to give you some constructive feedback on it. Not trying to be difficult, but the idea is it's the benefit of the informal. We just didn't think it was sufficiently developed in terms of the thinking
So
to
it probably
to
would
make
have been
it.
better had we come back for another informal.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We would probably, I guess, speak with you to that end, to.
No, to the board. We'd meet with Hiram, we'd get on the agenda for an informal review. And then we have the option, if it had been an informal and everything looked in order, we would then make a motion to waive the formal and give you an approval. And
I mean, obviously, Hiram, excuse me, Emil, the reason for my pause is because I, you know, I'm aware of the fact that we're now going to be presenting something to you formal that has
Right.
Additional design to it.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure we want to continue on with the option of receiving a negative recommendation from the board at this point, if that's our only option other than withdrawing. So I guess, you know, I mean, we could talk about it certainly and.
well, our position is that if you had been willing to come back for a future.
Which we certainly are.
Well, but the decision could have been, talking to Mr. Walker, no, we're going on to zoning. So there would have been no recommendation from the design review board. So we're obliged to make some comment on it. What the zoning commission chooses to do with that is up to them. They may look at it and say it's the best thing since the Taj Mahal. So they really don't know that. And,
Well, I mean, certainly your recommendations, we intend to act upon.
well, you won't have to if the zoning commission approves it. So,
or you just fix it and come back in 2 weeks.
yeah. Right.
Come back. We have, I don't recall a precedent for this, but do we have the option to make a formal and informal?
It doesn't matter.
that really wouldn't matter. We wouldn't take any action on an informal.
We would just basically have the conversations
Right.
and then just ask that you not take action.
Yeah, there's no need to change a formal to an informal. So we'll go on to the next project and
Could I just ask,
Hiram?
though, I mean, if Matt, if what you're saying, Matt, is you would consider coming back in 2 weeks, one could vote to
Yeah, we could,
rescind that motion.
Right.
And vote again.
Well, all it
As long
says
as
is
you
resubmit. I mean, the motion is to.
It's to resubmit it.
Is to resubmit it,
that's what we're asking you to do. So you could come back and then that's all gone,
keeping with the guidelines, and then you're okay.
then you're okay.
The reason I want to be clear is because we're going to run into a time problem.
Well, that's with zoning,
June 3rd, and your next meeting, I think, is the 11th.
correct. That's why if you do go to zoning with this, the recommendation will be a denial.
I just really need to know what the applicant wants. I
Yes.
know what the board did, and I know what the board said, I just need to know.
Right.
If you intend to come back, then we'll push the zoning meeting to June, to their next meeting. But that's,
Right.
you can figure out, let me know.
And I'll definitely discuss that with you after the.
Okay, thanks.
So here is our project, the Cannon Building.
If we can get this, excuse me, just done in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
quick,
oh,
because,
absolutely, believe me, this will
Okay.
be very quick. We've really continued along with a very similar, let's go to the elevation design changes. There's really no change to what we had, other than what's probably most significant is the addition of the handicapped ramp. We did look at adding this on to the rear of the building. We have a plan of that, which we can certainly show you of the previous, well, the option of adding to the rear of the building, which actually took out a lot of parking, unfortunately, that we thought was a valuable asset. What we're certainly trying to do here is create an A-level retail space, really connect this to what's going on at the rest of the complex, expand some parking spaces in front, and also address a accessibility issue to the building, which is unfortunate that it's been this way for so long. But what we looked at doing, most importantly, is bringing the ramp along the side of the building out toward Hot Meadow, very similarly to what was produced for the Starbucks building. There is an intention to landscape that area, just like what's been done at Starbucks, so that this really alleviates the view of this ramp, the shrubbery and whatnot. We're also showing in the elevation, I think, a wrought iron railing, which, we think is in keeping with the building, although we've seen what's been done on other buildings in town, and certainly if we went to a less intrusive railing, we could certainly, certainly something like this, a guardrail is not required for this height, so it could certainly tend to reduce the look of that as if it were a wall that's either up here. But overall, I think that, the landscaping that we're proposing, the opportunity to address the accessibility issue. Right now, this curb, this access right here is not accessible to the front of the building, down at the parking area, so we're gonna remove that curb. We're gonna come up with a couple of sloped areas of pavement that will bring you up to this area, and then you can continue along the front of the building to the accessible ramp that's down at this end, and then also have this ramp here. That will kind of go through a garden space, just like what has been done in other areas, and bring you up. So I know there's been some concern expressed about the location of the ramp. I think with the landscaping that's being proposed, and it's certainly not indicative of certainly be indicative of what's been done in other areas, we feel that seems to be a workable solution. We're certainly open to your comments and feedback.
Just for my clarification, is there any change to the existing parking configuration or pavement in front of the building?
No.
So
The only change really is
So
that
they're gonna
there'd be a
cover
curb cut
this?
there now where
Yeah.
currently there's a curb.
You guys
that goes
approved that,
across
huh?
6-inch curb.
Matt, you referenced the landscaping plan. Hiram, is it, not in my package, is there?
No, I don't have.
No, okay. Coming up from the parking lot, just above the north arrow, those ramps are what, 5%?
They're two 6-foot-long ramps at 1 and 12.
1 and 12, okay. So those Those then are gonna have to have rails.
It's my understanding that you're allowed to do a 6-inch rise without any handrails.
Yeah, but that's only for a curb cut. Once you get into the site, you're gonna have to, because it's greater than 5%, therefore you're gonna have to have rails out there. They will allow you the 6-foot cut as a curb cut, but beyond that, they won't let you do it. So, and then when you come up there and you turn and you go up, now that ramp is less than 30 feet or 30 feet, or more than 30 feet, because obviously.
Less than 30.
Okay, so you don't have, so you don't have to put landings, but you'll have to have rails there. Did you by any chance, and again, just an idea, did you investigate the idea of maybe scissoring it to reduce some of that mass going out toward Hot Meadow?
On the front of the building?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
again,
We
you're backed into the same situation you were at Subway here. You know, there's no good solution. These rails, I'm working with a ramp on a project right now which has a similar situation. And, you know, we're drawing up scheme after scheme after scheme to kind of mitigate what that is. I think the idea of the landscaping makes sense, but I think it's what the landscaping is. You know, if it's all done in perennials, it ain't gonna look so good in the wintertime. But we don't have that plan. And I don't know what you're doing with the grades either, because you might be able to do something with the grades to somewhat mitigate the impact of that. You won't be able to mitigate a lot of the railing, so, you know, it's like, okay, if you've looked at it and it doesn't work scissoring it, you know, I can see scissoring it maybe and then trying to make like a landing plaza or something that you bring people up, an intermediate, but, no, I'm not designing the project.
No, I appreciate
Where's that
that.
from?
I mean, I did bring, I don't know if you need to, if you'd like to take a look at them, I did bring photos of what was done at the Starbucks.
Oh, well,
To deal with this.
yeah,
You're very familiar.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, and I think it works. You know, I think, you know, this is kind of an iconic building in town, so we all realize the sensitivity of.
Well, it's a protected building, it's a heritage building,
Okay,
so.
that takes it up another notch now, doesn't it?
Well, in terms of the town center code, it does. So that strikes me as being a real intrusion in that deep lawn setting for that protected building.
That's why I was thinking of scissoring it, because then you could back it off and then do something down by the parking that separates it.
Be able to scissor it off the backside instead of the front?
I'm not here to do Matt's job.
Right, right.
We've often found that by scissoring ramps like that,
Right.
it reduces their mass, because even though you've got more rails, but then you can hide it, you know? In this particular case, it might be worth thinking about,
Right.
again, that if you come off the parking lot and then provide an access and put like a little plaza where this can scissor down into, that, you know, now you've taken it away from Hot Meadow, so you're kind of working there. And you can use that area in front of it to have like a little gathering place or something, which kind of reflects what's going on at Eno, you know? So there's a rhythm being developed about how these historic buildings relate to Hot Meadow Street, without having, well, let's face it, a 30-foot-long ramp is
Yeah.
a pretty severe element,
Yeah.
no matter where it is.
Unless it's a real strong design feature, and I don't think this is, then,
No, I appreciate that though, too. I
Yeah.
mean, there were gardens and whatnot at this end, so bringing back that landscaping as,
Right.
you know, as a means to hide this, maybe scissoring that
Right.
and pulling it back in.
Right.
You know, starts to tend to bring back a little of what was,
Right.
you know, at least at this end of the building. Certainly a gathering space would be very nice.
Yeah.
And appropriate for
Something to think about.
it's the same amount of ramp, it's not like you're introducing more ramp.
You're just introducing another landing.
Right.
You can't get away from that. You know, one landing, double, two landings, maybe. Which, quite frankly, if you do that, you might want to, you know, coming up from the parking, you know, how you said, okay, we got a curb cut, then we got a ramp, then we go and they got a ramp. Perhaps, looking at the grade, by scissoring it, you may eliminate that whole bottom section there. You don't have to put, you don't have to put the second.
We were trying to avoid the landing,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, and of course, you know, 28 feet, but now being able to have the landing and use it as part of the design, that gives the opportunity to.
Well, and it saves you it may save you building that ramp that runs parallel, or that walk ramp, if you will, that runs parallel to Hoffman. Something like that.
Just looking at your south elevation, you're introducing awnings above the, The windows? You got an awning? Decorative fabric awning.
Yeah, just a very small awning, that's the
That's a-
south elevation.
Where on the historic building inspired that? I mean, we're just kind of
You know,
curious.
It's actually interesting, there were a lot of buildings like this that had these sun porches, and part of the residential, character of that was an awning over the, so we wanted to do something very small that just covered the top glazing,
Mhm.
but kind of called back to that, almost that residential feel of these sunrooms.
Mhm.
And, it actually helps significantly with the south elevation and what's
Right.
going on. I mean, there's really nothing in that parking lot that tends to break it up, but I thought I gave certainly some residential character back to what really was a very prestigious residence.
Mhm. You're just doing it on the south elevation.
Right now, yes. Yes.
Well, I guess here again, there's a situation, we have to come to a motion on this.
We're informal, I think.
No, this is a formal application. This is a formal application, so,
I mean, I think we've made some good progress, had some good discussions. I'd like to think that we, I think at this point, being what the schedule is, I think we'd like you to probably take a vote, and then we can certainly, decide with my client or whatnot if we're going to.
all right.
But, certainly, what we discussed is something that we're very open to modifying as part of future submission.
The only other comment I make before you have this motion is that you're putting your addition right out to the existing corner, or you're in, 4 inches or something from the corner of the south, looking at the south facade. The porch area that you're adding, you're going right to the edge. Did you consider actually coming in a little bit, or?
That was actually using the old footing that's there from the original
Oh.
sun porch.
Oh, I see.
That line.
Well, we've got to come up to a motion. It's 10 of, and I see, I see a lot of similar problems actually to the other site in terms of this now being a protected building, requiring a little bit more thought and given to the handicap ADA access to it. This is going to be right through that lawn. It's going to look pretty striking. It's going to be a dominant form in that whole landscape, frankly. And
Yeah, TC 29 says it says you're supposed to be particularly attentive on the heritage buildings, and that you should locate any addition, which would include that ramp to the side or rear of a heritage building. So you're in violation of that part of the code. And, it says while many buildings may be considered background structures, the heritage buildings are particularly important. They are typically civic, cultural, and institutional facilities that serve a public function. And care should be taken when undertaking projects that affect heritage buildings to ensure that they continue to contribute to the historic character of the town center. And that ramp really doesn't in the way it's configured now.
Well, we certainly don't disagree with any of that.
So if you want to go for a motion, it would have to be another denial.
I'd like to have a motion, since there is a zoning commission coming up, and they may be going to it on the 3rd, so.
Okay. that's
Kevin?
My job, huh? All right, Mr. Chairman, regarding the application of Matt Whitner of Phase Zero Design Agent for GPF, Drake Hill LLC, owner for a site plan amendment on the property located at 720 Hot Meadow Street. I'd like to move to indicate to the zoning commission that the design review board finds this proposal in its current form to be generally inconsistent with the guidelines for community design, recommends this proposal be denied in its current form and be resubmitted to be more in keeping with the guidelines, particularly in regard to TC 29. We're locating and you should locate and design additions to be subordinate to heritage buildings and locate them to the side or rear of a heritage building, and the ramp as designed does not do that. I guess that's what I would leave it.
Okay.
But refer you to that whole section on heritage buildings.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend a denial to the zoning commission. Is there a second? Second. Hiram, do you have any comments? No? Second by Rita. Any comments? All in favor, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So it's unanimous. Just a design consideration. The significance of these heritage buildings within town, we'd like designers and people to become more concerned about changes made to them, because they're essentially pieces on the landscape from which a lot of inspiration ought to come, and it's a record of the history. We start making modifications in terms of the detailing, in terms of some of the important features, then it becomes that's sort of a fabric that starts to unravel. So it's very important that these heritage buildings get viewed in a special light, I think. And that's all laid out, and as Kevin mentioned, in the current design guidelines for town center. So we think we would recommend you resubmit, and with special attention to paying more attention to the building and to the site, and the impact that this will have on the structure. So with that, hopefully we'll see you back here. If not, go on to zoning on the 3rd and see what happens.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks very much for coming in. And Hiram, it's about 7:00. I don't know, did you want to say anything about the Burke?
I just want to, you want to do that, Burke?
We can, let's put it off till next time, right? Till the next meeting?
Is it a big deal?
It's not a big deal, I don't think. The proposal, do you want to do a quick 2-minute?
I think you have copies of it. It's just a plaque that hangs below the existing sign.
Right.
Directly next door. The reason that I believe in this case it's probably appropriate is that this building is located behind the building that's in front. So it doesn't really have any frontage. You have to go to the property beyond to get the driveway. So I think this is the least intrusive way of identifying where that location, that Burke therapy would be.
Yeah, which one does it get added to?
The brand new sign that's right.
Yeah, okay.
Orthodontic. sign.
Yeah, the orthodontic?
It's a hanging
But it's a
one.
hanger.
It's a hanging.
Although it's against our guidelines, I'm not sure how else you could do it on that.
We looked at a number of different options, John, as to how you
Yeah.
identify that property and where you put that sign to let people
Yeah.
know where it is. And that was a tough thing about that. Frankly, from my point of view, I thought that design probably fit in well with what the current sign looks like.
Yeah, the way they do the dip
That
too.
location, there's no additional lights that would be needed, no additional signs that would be put in the ground. So it was probably the least intrusive way that we could think that should be done there, so.
Isn't there some way they could just kind of do a reverse curve on the Burke Therapy sign and have it attached right to that sign?
Okay, why don't you give me that as a recommendation, and I'm happy to talk to them about that.
What I was
Let's see what
thinking of,
the-
instead of having, you got this nice
Right.
elegant arch, and
Yeah.
now this straight line, so I was
Right.
thinking is maybe they could just inscribe that arc, and then they
Yeah.
could tuck it up more
Right.
into it.
Right.
It doesn't even necessarily have to be attached to it, but I
Right.
think it would allow it to
Right.
do, and I think it would, and then what it does is for a hanger, I think it works well, because you're right, there's not a good way to do it, but at least I think there's a little bit more relationship now between the two.
I think we can get them to do that.
Yeah.
If we can't,
Yeah,
just
that
do it
shouldn't be,
Well, rather than make a recommendation, can you just talk to them about this and have them come back?
have that.
Because it's kind of hard to prove it without them here,
All right. What I could
without,
do is-
when you're making a change. We can't really make a change without,
What I could do is say, tell them, if you're willing to do this, I could.
yeah, it looks good.
design.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're not willing to do this, then you need to come back.
What about the other signs? There's a directional sign and one on the building. Was there any?
That's all you got this.
It's just that, that's the only one?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
we had talked about directional signs and so on, but.
I thought the site plan had other signs on it.
Originally, I thought they were gonna provide, plans for more, I didn't see them.
There was an identifier on the building, for example, I thought,
Originally, I saw that, I didn't see them now.
and a directional sign, I think, pointing where they're going, where they're located, but,
I'll check on that, this is as far as I know.
okay. Okay, we'll not take any action on that then, Hiram? Okay, about 3 minutes to 7. Is there,
Motion to adjourn?
we have a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second by John Stewart, all in favor? Aye. Thanks very much, we're adjourned.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.